It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I had the privilege to interview the College of Coastal Georgia head volleyball coach Valerie Everly. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Thank you.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college volleyball?
Yeah, so my start to college volleyball and start to coaching in general was kind of an accident. So while I was playing at UW Stevens Point, I got the opportunity to work with the high school team in the area, which is Stevens Point area senior high, so we call them SPASH. And that kind of just flew into my lap from an older player as a sophomore was like, hey, Val, do you need a job? And I started coaching, which I knew I had always wanted to get involved more with coaching after I got out of school, but it was kind of just something that happened. And so I got the privilege to coach a bunch of different levels of high school team. And then while I was still playing, and then when I got to the College of Coastal Georgia, the same sort of thing happened. COVID happened. I'm already working at the college, and they said no hiring assistant coaches this year. We can't. It's COVID, and I'm over there in the corner, kind of like, hey, volleyball coach, I have quite a bit of experience with coaching. If you need a volunteer assistant, and so I kind of started off that way for a while, and moved in eventually when that coach left as the head coach. So as much as it seems like an accident, it's a kismet kind of. It's just kind of what I guess where I was supposed to be and kept steering me in that direction.
What was it like playing for Washington Stephen Point?
Yeah, UW Stevens Point. It's in the middle of Wisconsin. It's a D3 school, and I played for the NCBF team. And a lot of people don't know about NCBF. Some people call it club, but they have conferences. They have a national tournament. It's a very built out kind of thing for men and women. And so playing for that team was like really exciting because you're playing not only a bunch of teams in Wisconsin, but also a bunch of teams around the country. And you get to play teams like Stanford and big D1 schools like UCLA or UC Irvine, and like playing very high level teams as this little D3, school in the middle of Wisconsin, nowhere. And I think that was the greatest takeaway was, if you play, your standard NCAA, you have your conference and you have your national tournament, and there's no that's awesome and it's amazing. But with NCBF, I got the opportunity, like I played Duke and Stanford in like national championship games, and it was just incredibly fulfilling. And so it was really exciting. My team was for our senior year and our junior year, we were the our junior year, we were the only D3 or D2 team that qualified for the Division I level of NCBF national tournament. So you walk in a little yellow and purple Stevens Point, and you're like, all right, we're playing Duke, Stanford, and UCLA today. And you're like, okay. But it was a really, really cool, really unique opportunity. And I'm really thrilled that I got to do it.
What was that experience like? Obviously, getting to play those top D1 schools like Duke, Stanford, and UCLA.
Um, it was incredible. It was a little intimidating, of course, when you walk into that room, and obviously, if they're not on their D1 team, there's still people playing there that are incredible athletes that just aren't playing on their NCAA D1 team. Um, but as I grew into it, so as a freshman, you're like, oh boy, I'm playing on this team. I'm the youngest one here. But as you kind of work up into it, so our all 4 years, UW Stevens Point made the Sweet 16 of the national tournament. So that was really fulfilling. And our senior year, we actually played for the national championship and lost. So we took second. But it was incredibly unique. It's not something a lot of people get to experience or even know about. And so one thing that I could say is like, if you're a athlete that doesn't quite know where they fit in on the D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO spectrum, and you just want to play and you have a love for the game, like you are not by any means losing any competitive nature in NCVF or club.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting to put on that Stephen Point jersey?
Oh, well, I also got to work in the club sports department while I was playing. And so getting to design the jersey was an extra level of added there. But I wear the number 10. I loved it. And I never thought I'd be a purple and gold type of girl since Packers fans are green and gold. But I really enjoyed it. And to be honest with you, I kind of want to go back and steal my jersey at some point. But they're still playing in them right now, which is pretty cool. But I think it's that family atmosphere that we really got to have where we got to work to make each other better. And it was just, I think, very highly back on those days.
As a player, what were some of your biggest accomplishments throughout your playing career?
Yeah, I'm like purposefully like actual like accomplishments that I got. So I was a 3-time all conference selection. So I was a setter and a right side. So I had that going for me. And then my senior year, I was honored as an academic all conference player as well. So that was pretty neat. And I think obviously our biggest accomplishment as a team was taking second at nationals, getting to have that medal, and getting to really play. Outside of actual like things that you can write down as accomplishments, I was a team captain and was the treasurer of our team. And I really think like my favorite thing that I can think of is as we kept playing, like accomplishment wise, I remember hitting a shot on my very last day of playing collegiate sixes ever. And I turned around and I was like, I've never done that before. And so I think some of those little like distinct memories in your brain of like things that you've got to do and celebrate and see really like stick in my brain.
Of course, after your collegiate playing career, what was it like getting into college athletics and working as a sports information intern?
Yeah, so I had more than enough jobs while I played, while I played, and I was a coach, and I had an internship, and I worked in the club sports department. And I like to joke that when I got older in my college years, that I was working at the school, and I happened to go to some classes, and so the opportunity to be an SID intern at UW Stevens Point under Brad Duckworth and under Tim Bohm was incredible. It gave me the foundation for what I ended up doing after college. And I knew I was a communications major, but my department didn't have sports. There was no sports management. There was no, sport, like any sort of sports association with those classes. And so I really had to take my communication lessons and apply them and get the experience, as a trying to work in sports is incredibly difficult nowadays because it seems so lucrative, but you need oodles and oodles of experience before you get actually into it. And so getting that foundation where I was taking stats at games, I had done PA, I was creating graphics when I was in the office and sorting through old record books. And so the general foundation of what every SID does, I got to do right away. And at Stevens Point, they have, I think, 32 sports now. And at the time, I think it was 28, and one full-time SID. So having him let me and a few other interns, like he really trusted us with our own sport and let us kind of run with it, taking pictures and just kind of being the SID for the whole thing, getting to write the stories, post, pick pictures, that sort of thing. Just an incredible experience that really, prepared me for my job at Coastal Georgia. The first title I had here was the Director of Sports Information and Marketing. So really got me ready for that.
While at Stevens Point, what was it like being the strength and conditioning coordinator?
Yeah, at SPASH, so at the high school. So after coaching my first year, my first year I had the freshman B team, and you're getting girls that are very raw and natural talented. And I remember the athletic director kind of coming up to me and being like, hey, like I see that you work with the younger kids really well. Do you have any interest in doing more? And so they actually put me, they only have 3 grades in their high school because it's so big. So they only have 10th, 11th, and 12th. So the 9th graders are still actually in a middle school, a junior high. And so I would travel over to the junior high, and I hosted and trained and worked with weight room students. So as low as seventh graders who are getting experience in the weight room, getting a good workout in and learning. And we especially focused on core development and just making sure that they were doing the right things and not putting that stress on their bodies. But I was really impressed by how many young kids were getting in the weight room.
What was your experience like getting to work on the high school level and getting to coach high school volleyball?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think with high school volleyball, you get to do a lot more development, right? You're taking athletes from their freshman year, they're, 13, and you're watching them all the way up until they're 18 and seeing them grow and giving them information that you can. And I got the opportunity to coach some incredible athletes. Some that are, let's see, is I think some that just finished up their senior year of D1 volleyball, and that school is really known for softball. So there were two or three athletes I know that are playing at D1 softball teams, and there's a couple of D3 or club players that are still playing that I got the opportunity to coach, and now I'm watching them play at my old school. And so but with high school, you get the opportunity to really develop and work on not only just the player's skill, but also the player's maturity and kind of grow in that aspects. And it's cool because they continue to climb up that ladder of ability as you're coaching. You get to the college level, and there's definitely some room for that. But with coastal, with SPASH versus coastal, you really get to take players from just raw athletic talent and put them in that, volleyball arena.
What has that experience been like? Obviously, getting to see those high school athletes, and like how you said, some of them may still be playing on your team. What has that experience been like seeing them in high school to now seeing them in college playing?
Yeah. Well, the one person that comes to mind, and she was on the varsity team when I got to work with both JV and varsity. Her name was Kayla Lass, and she played for UWGB. And she was just a little spitfire that I would have to challenge at practice every day. And I remember how fulfilling it was, her senior year, having her and her mom come up and hug me. And, I by no means am I taking any credit. She was a great volleyball player and she had other great coaching staff along with us. But just to get to kind of watch from the sidelines and see her play at that level, it was awesome. And I hope she had such a blast doing it. I know for sure that she was academic all conference selections. Also think of players like Allie Miklish. She actually played 4 years for UW Madison softball, and then went in, and now she's at her fifth and final year at Clemson as a center fielder. And even I think I messaged her yesterday on Instagram just about a book that she was reading. And so to still have that connection with such high level athletes, and just kind of being proud of them and like seeing them from a distance and cheering them on is really incredible. And I think of players, Mariah Neidfeld was my first. She was on my freshman B team. She was a little stud, and she was awesome. And I watched her go from freshman B to making JV and kind of flirting with playing and not playing and riding the bench and then making the varsity team. And I got that text from her like, I made varsity, and just how like it's just so fulfilling. And I think she's playing at Stevens Point now. And so it's just that feeling, that coaching feeling. It's, if a coach does it and they don't love their kids and they don't love the game, it's not right. But those are the kids that stick out in my brain that were just so wonderful, and just an honor to coach and to kind of see them now from a distance.
What are some of your roles and responsibility as the director of athletes achievement?
Athletics development. And so basically, I have the volleyball side on one end, and I have the development side. So my position is actually 50% in our college's advancement department. And so I get to work with fundraising and getting our presence known in town, and basically just making sure that the College of Coastal Georgia is supported and is present in the community and excited. So one thing we're working on right now is we have 2 upcoming volleyball fundraisers. We're doing a grass volleyball tournament and a seafood boil, a low country boil. But on the other end, it has nothing to do with volleyball sometimes too. So like we're running our all athletics golf outing in May 9th. And so I've been working on a lot of planning for that, a lot of events and fundraisers and just how to connect with our community and get their support. I also do all the sponsorship, acquisition, and activation for the college football program.
What is that like, obviously balancing that role with also being a head coach for the volleyball program?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you'd ask my players, they'd say she just never leaves. So I have a lot of roles. I'm here early. I stay late. I'm working on my work-life balance a little bit more. But I try to split my days in half. I did some volleyball in the morning, take the mid-major chunk of the day to do advancement, and then I have practice in the evening generally. And so that's kind of how that's structured. And a lot of the times it's taking my notebook home and writing practice plans while eating dinner, or watching film, or when we ride on the bus to games, working on advancement stuff. It's just making sure you can get things done on time, but got that good old Wisconsin North work ethic, so it doesn't quite let me stop ever.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to become the head volleyball coach and got to step on the volleyball court to lead your program?
Oh, great and nerve-wracking at the same time. I remember we had a scrimmage at FSCJ in Jacksonville. It's a JUCO team. It was the first time I had coached against any other team, and I could like feel it in my chest about how excited I was. And there's actually a picture, and my assistant coach Tori Pelfrey is hugging me like before the game and just is like, "You got this," and I was like, So it was nerve-wracking, but it was exciting. And I'm a very emotional and excitable coach. And so you can really read it on my face. And I get excited with the girls and I jump around and whatever. But I remember that game. All of my friends traveled down, and my mom and dad from Wisconsin actually flew down and surprised me. So seeing them through the game, there's a video of me and I'm hitting balls during warm-up, and you can see my face go like, and so it's very exciting, and that kind of calmed me down and remembered all the support that I have from my friends and family and from Coach Tori, and it was just a good moment. And then the next, I think that was a Thursday, and then on Saturday we got to play at home. We had like a 400 hitting percentage day, and it was just incredible. It was an incredible volleyball game, and I'll never forget that. But hopefully those nerves kind of stay away from now on. So that's good.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting to coach at home for the first time in your head coaching career?
Yeah. We probably had in the recent history since I've been at Coastal, one of the most packed houses that I've ever seen for volleyball games. And I remember there's this picture of me, and it's me, and then in the background you can see all the fans. And I'm just like, it was an awesome game. I got like opportunities for almost everybody to play, and it was like probably one of the better games my team has ever played. Not the top one by any means, but a very talented statistical game. And we absolutely crushed our opponent. We swept them, and it was just it's a relief feeling when you can see your team that you kind of put together and you've helped and you've grown, see them perform. And I feel that every time I coach is that like when they're successful, you can kind of get that like the Grinch heart grew 3 sizes type of stuff in your heart, and you're just very excited for them.
As a head coach, what does a typical game day look like for you versus for your players?
Yeah, so I'll start with my players first. We play on Wednesdays and Saturdays, so if it's a Wednesday game, they can go to class and get their stuff done. We play at 7. But I'll talk about a Saturday game. For me, I try to get a good amount of rest. I'm pretty anxious about game days, so I try to sleep in and get the girls in. They're usually in about 11, and we do a serve and pass. And then they kind of have time to go see their athletic trainer. They have time to be in the locker room and kind of do team bonding before the game, to eat together. We also get a scouting report in there every game day. And then we start our warm up about an hour before the game. And then we play at about 2 p.m. And then after, I usually get to huddle with the team, talk with them. We talk in the locker room, and then get to spend time with my friends celebrating a win or mourning a loss and working on that. But for me, I'm a big believer in routine. I'm a very structured person. So wake up, get coffee and breakfast, go to the thing, go to the office, finish up my scouting report. Seeing any additional games that had popped up on Huddle and getting to evaluate and printing that off and getting ready. And then going to serve and pass and working with them. And one thing that I did a couple of times, which I really enjoyed to kind of get me out of my comfort zone, was the girls play queens at the end of serve and pass sometimes, and I would play with them a couple of times just to get the excitement going, and then get dressed and coach and work hard. But it's good. I have a joke that every game that I bought a new pair of shoes the day before the game that we won. So I'm going to be in the hole on some new shoes next year.
Of course, who are some of the teams that you face each week in your conference?
I'm sorry, one more time.
Who are some of the teams that you face each week in your conference?
So we are in the Sun Conference, which mostly plays in Florida. There are 2 schools in Georgia, SCAD, Savannah, and Thomasville, but they don't have volleyball programs. So we play all of our conference games in Florida and South Florida. So we play Southeastern, Weber, and Warner. They're in Lakeland and Lake Wales area, middle of the state. And then we also play Florida Memorial and St. Thomas, which are both in Miami. We play Kaiser in West Palm Beach, and we play Ave Maria, which is in Ave Maria, Florida, down near the Naples area. And so there are eight teams in our conference, including ourselves.
Of course, what is that like, obviously playing those teams in Florida and not playing teams around the South area?
Yeah. Sometimes we wish we got to play some closer games. We're the furthest travel for everybody. And so there's an advantage and a disadvantage there. The advantage is the teams that come in had to travel a long time to get to you. The disadvantage is you have to travel a long time every time you travel. So you're looking at about a 5 to 7 hour road trip every time we play. And we're always in a bus together. So it's good. The weather is beautiful. So you can be in West Palm Beach and you can, be in Miami, and you just have beautiful weather when it's a little bit colder back at home. And but I think it's just like any opponent. It'd be like if it were cold, kind of get in the gym and everything else fades away. So.
Of course, what is that like playing Kaiser at home versus going to Kaiser and playing them away?
Kaiser's a good opponent. We've been matched up. We might call ourselves rivals. And I've got a good relationship with their coach, and it's been very fun to play them. The gyms are very different. Kaiser's gym is very bright. There's Kaiser a lot of the times has hosted one of our tournaments, and so can feel that extra added bit of pressure when you go in their gym. And especially like Kaiser and St. Thomas have some incredible fans, and they'll get going. St. Thomas, their baseball team is always in there getting everybody fired up. But luckily, we get to play most teams that far away on the weekend, so there's a little bit of difference there. Playing them is always a fun challenge, and it's exciting because it's always going to be competitive. When we play at home, there's a big difference, especially on a weeknight. Playing at home, our fans are incredible. We've got the tennis team and the softball team that are always in there and supporting us. They got our cheers down. They get the fans going. And like even one time we had the tennis team who surrounded us. They went around the outside of the top of the gym, and we're doing echoing back and forth. So it's a very exciting atmosphere playing in our gym. And like even our scrimmage last Saturday, we had a good amount of fans for a scrimmage in the middle of in the spring. So Coastal Georgia really comes out to support us, both our community, our students, and our faculty and staff.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the volleyball program?
That's an incredible question, and it's something that we've really been working on. So I've been the head coach now for over a year, And part of my coaching philosophy is that not only does the culture need to come from the top down, but it needs to come from the bottom up. And so it's been a collaborative experience between me and my players and my captains and leaders about what do we want our culture to look like? How do we need to enforce our culture? And actually, I'm going to grab it. I am reading a book right now called The Culture System. And I would 10 out of 10 recommend it, but it's basically a system of like, okay, this is the first step of creating culture, and this is the step of presenting it to your team and enforcing it and keeping it as your culture. And so now that my team and I have really developed what we would like our culture to be, now I'm very analytical, structural person. So reading this book is going to help me, enforce it and make it, something that's solid and not just wishy-washy, because like even in this book, it's like, it's an all the time thing. It's not a sometimes thing. It has to be constant for it to be a usable culture. And so I'm very excited about finishing this book, and I'm very excited about getting to implement that with my players as we continue to develop and make our team stronger and better.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play college volleyball?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're looking at my whiteboard back here. That's my recruit board. It's got 3 different colors. Everything's color coded and whatnot. But a lot of times we're recruiting 2 different ways. One is in person and one is online. Through COVID, they did an excellent job of really beefing up those online systems. So field level, sports recruits, NCSA, those kinds of websites, Huddle, just getting a athlete profile, ways to connect with them, ways to connect with their coach. It makes it a lot easier for me to go, if I'm at a tournament, to look up the team name and the number and the person. And I think it's been really helpful. So watching a lot of film is something. And then a lot of the times too, I get to rely on my players to reach out to former teammates. We pull a lot of kids from junior colleges. And like, for example, we just signed Sarah Hansen. She's an incredible setter from Iowa. And the reason we found her was because I recruited a player from Iowa, from Iowa Central Community College. And she was like, hey, I know about this girl. She's recruiting again. She's incredible. We were teammates in club back in the day. And so kind of getting that vote of confidence and that, like, this is the girl we need from some of my players has been really helpful. And you'd be surprised. I think 2 or 3 of them are actually that way. Or for instance, like my coach Tori, my assistant coach, is from Ohio. And we just recruited someone that she coached when she was 7 years old on the basketball team. Jazz Lamerson, she signed over Christmas break, and just it's establishing connections and getting yourselves in front of coaches and just kind of being confident about yourself. And then once we make that initial connection with a player, we love to have a very personal relationship. So keeping in touch with the player, hearing about how their tournaments are going to see them play in person, and just making sure we have that connection. I always give my cell phone, like, text or call, have your mom text or call, because that's the kind of coach I am. I just really want that very personal relationship with my players. And so it's fun. It's a good process recruiting, and it really gets making those connections with different coaches and teams in the areas is fun.
As a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes when going on the road?
Absolutely. The initial things are like, are they going to fit into our culture system? Do they have good grades? Are they going to make my players compete, the current players compete for their spot? And that's really the team we're building right now, is we're trying to recruit from the top. It's like, can this player make my, number one outside kind of feel like they got to work harder and challenge themselves in practice and make it so our whole team, the ad of that player makes our whole team level go up. But a lot of footwork, you look at a lot of footwork, you look at a lot of energy when they do, win. You talk to their coaches about, how do they act? Are they receptive to being coached? How do they play? That sort of thing. And so I think it depends on each position a lot of what you're really looking for. But a lot of the times I'm like, do you have good grades? Are you a good kid? do you want to be coached? Do you love the game of volleyball? And where do you fit in on our team?
What does that official visit look like for those prospective student athletes coming to Coastal Georgia?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think they get a good experience. So they typically meet with financial aid, get a tour of our campus, meet with a professor. They get to have lunch with our team, and then they practice with us, and then they kind of hang out with the team after the fact and get to meet with our coaching staff. And so that's kind of what it looks like. We've actually done a couple where we bring in like a whole group of recruits. So not only can they meet their future teammates potentially, but they can also meet people that are their age that they might play with. And that actually worked in our favor last year. We did that, and we signed Kyra Matthias, who is from Iowa Central Community College. And she had no clue. She had never met Julia before. They were both DSs, and Julia Naveau from Pensacola. She's from Texas, and played at Pensacola. They met and really bonded while they were at recruit week. So I got a call from Kyra who said, I'm coming down. I'm going to play on the team. I'll be there in the spring. And about 2 days later, I get a call from Julia, and she said, I'm coming in the spring. And I asked her, like, what changed your mind? I thought you wanted to come in the fall. And she goes, well, Kyra said she's going, so I'm going. And so it was kind of cool that I got the opportunity not only to coach them for an extra spring semester, but also that they bonded so much just on that trip that one signing made the other sign, which was, I think, something really cool that I got to watch and experience that we kind of set up, but it was all on them.
Of course, what is that like as a head coach to see those players that you're recruiting mesh with your team and get to practice to see if they fall in love with the team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one benefit of that for me is my team is incredibly kind. And like one thing that the girls always say when I talk to them after the practice, the recruits, is they're like, I was so nervous that the girls were going to be mean or not like me, or, that I wouldn't fit in. And they have always come back and said, I felt so welcomed. It was great to have them there. They answered all my questions. I felt like part of the team. And that's just, recruiting the right kids, but also like my kids are so wonderful. And so they do a great job with the recruits. But I think just getting to watch new players fall into place and be part of that community is awesome. Like Kyra is already a member of our SGA and involved in clubs, and she's going there. We got like Nat, who came in last year, who is now a tutor, and she works for the athletic department, and she is going to be a RA. And so really seeing that athletic culture kind of accept them and let them thrive is awesome. It's an honor to get to watch that every day.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to see those players put on that Coastal Georgia jersey for the first time?
Very nice. It's very good. Two of my spring players got to put on the jersey for the first time last Saturday, and I just watched them walk in, and you're like, that's so good. And I think it really signifies like you're here, you're a part of this, and now we're gonna like go to battle together. And so, I always joke that here, I'll turn you a little bit. I always joke that my current roster for 2023 is in blue, and then there's green and red, and that my goal is always to make my players blue, get them on the blue side, which I think is kind of fun because we're blue and white as a school, and so get to put them in blue on the board and put them in blue in the jersey.
As a head coach, what is it going to feel like to have those seniors put that jersey on for the last time and seeing their progress from freshman to senior year?
Yeah, I actually didn't graduate any seniors last year. I got the opportunity to keep Miss Skylar Gribben for another year because of her injury. And so I don't know. I'm sure it'll be sad. It'll be, I've got players here that I've coached for 3 or more years. No, I think 3 is the max right now. And so my graduating seniors won't be all 4 years, but I know how much impact that they've had on this program and what they've been able to do. But yeah, that we're graduating 5 this year. And so I'm sure I'll cry and get emotional in those speeches, but they're good kids. And they're not kids, they're good women, and they care, and they love the game, and they've worked their tail end off and they deserve a good recognition, and we're going to give it to them.
What are some of your future plans for the volleyball program moving forward?
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to be back kind of where we were in the conference before the major coaching shift, and before, there was, 3 or 4 months where there was no coach. It really, I believe it set us back quite a bit. And so I'm looking forward to kind of establishing ourselves back in conference, and really being competitive again. And then the second plan that I have for my team is like, you always see, on social media, there's athletes that just fall out of love with their sport because of a coach, because of teammates, because of, exhaustion. And really my goal as a coach is to make sure they continue to love it. They continue to thrive in their sport, and they don't look back and feel like they want to quit, or B, just look back and be like, that experience wasn't worth my time. And so my future plans for this team is we're going to get back to where we need to be in the conference and competitive. And then we need to make sure that I'm the type of coach, and this is the type of program that athletes are happy and love their sport, and it doesn't ever get to a point where we're taking away from them, but we're adding to them.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to play college volleyball?
Absolutely. Get your name out there. Get your name out there. Send me videos, send me film. Believe in what you want to do. The second thing is know what kind of college and what experience you want to have before. If you're a great athlete and you want to play, you don't want to ride the bench for a couple years, that maybe a D1 isn't your best option. Maybe going NAI or D2 because you get to the opportunity to play. Or maybe your goal is, I just want to win a national championship. Then heck yeah, go to Texas, go to Nebraska, go to a team that's already established in that sense. So really knowing what experience you want to have before talking to the coaches, so you can really field through and sift through colleges. I think one thing that is always a little stark to me is like a player who says, well, I just want to win a national championship, and then goes to a 0-14 D1 program, or has the conversation of like, oh, I just really want to play. I want to play at the highest level. And then they go to a team where they don't get to play. And so I think really looking at what experience do you want to have as an athlete? And that can be very different for everybody. Somebody might just say, you know what, I just want to be on the highest level team. I don't care if I play. I don't care, whatever. I just want to be on that team. That's awesome. And you should go find a school that fits that. And I think with my school, I'm always looking for players that are like, I want to develop. I want to love my team. I want to have a community culture. I want to have, I want to work hard, and I want to get better. And just those kinds of buzzwords are always something I am looking for. And then my last piece of advice is when you go in and you have that conversation with that coach in person, online, on the phone, whatever, just be yourself. If you be 100% your authentic self and a coach doesn't want you, that's not the team that you want to be on or that you're meant to be on. And so I think being your authentic self and just laying it all out in the line, like, this is who I am, is going to be so much better for you. I say that in interviews, and I say that, with coming to teams, is like, we know how you play. We've watched your film. We can see you. So most of this is just to see, how do you get along with our team? Do you fit into our culture? Those sort of things. And so those would be my advice for getting recruited, is just be yourself.
What advice would you give those freshmen that are entering their first year of college volleyball?
Yeah. Work hard. I can't stress that enough, is that if you want to be successful, if you want to be on a good team, you can never be the person that just gives 80% effort. Go into every practice looking at like the opportunity to learn and grow and do it. I think that's the biggest piece of advice that I can give, is like, being a college athlete is not something you just get to like toot your own horn about when you're 30. Being a college athlete and getting the most out of it is genuine work and effort, and just pouring kind of your heart and soul into that aspect of your life.
What advice would you give those college athletes that are looking to get into college coaching after their collegiate career?
Yeah. Stay in touch, get involved. There's so many opportunities, even when you're still in college or right out of college, to coach club. That's a great way to start, is get in with the high school team, get in with the club team. Um, which actually I think 3 or 4 of my athletes right now on my team are coaching at Waves, which is a club in our town, and just stay involved. And then after that, if they want to get into college coaching, it's start from the bottom up. Maybe go be a GA or grad assistantship. Go be an assistant coach. Go be a volunteer, and just get your foot in the door. And then when you get there, same advice: is work hard, never stop. I used to work for a baseball team in Wisconsin. It was called the Wisconsin Rapids Raptors. And John Fanta, our GM, said 2 things that always stuck in my head: is that the fan experience is the most important thing, and 2, run, never walk in the ballpark. And I think that is kind of what I want, from anyone who wants to get involved in sports, is like, if you're involved in sports, you better be that kid that is jogging down the stadium steps to try to get that thing done that day, to make that fan experience the best, to make your athletes experience the best, to try. If you're involved in sports, you have to be all in. And that's the kind of kids I want on my team. That's the kind of people that are successful athletes, that are successful in sports admin, is those people that just hustle, that work ethic of like, it doesn't matter if I'm up till 3 a.m., I'm getting this done. And that I'm going to do it to the best of my ability always. That's what you need.
What advice would you give those assistant coaches looking to get started and then become head coaches?
Yeah. Be the 100% supporter of your head coach always. I think that's where a lot of coaches struggle, is that they get to the point where they think they know better, or they think they know more, and maybe you do. But when you're in front of your team, if you need to be a unit, and your job is to support your athletes and to support your head coach. So being someone who undermines your head coach or talks badly about them is just something that's never going to be successful for you or your team. And so if you're being an assistant coach, like, I can't say more enough about Tori and how amazing she is. Not only does she support me, but she challenges me to be a better coach. But she does that, and she comes into my office, and that's when we go through and we're like, this is what we need to do. But really being that support system for your head coach and for your athletes, and taking on responsibilities. And if you're looking to be a head coach, it's take on as many responsibilities as someone will give you. Say, hey, can I make a scouting report? And then you look at it. Or, hey, I'd like to do the film today. Hey, what about this lineup? Those things, like getting involved and taking the steps that really, show that you can do both jobs, is awesome. And just climb that ladder. And if your head coach is a good mentor and a good person, they'll be thrilled for you if you get a head coaching job.
What advice would you give those future head coaches that are looking to get started in building their own program?
Read books, have mentors, look at other people. I mean, I never intended my career to end up here as the head volleyball coach, and I'm so thrilled that it did. But it was kind of like, a kick in the pants. Like, you better figure it out. So I do a lot of coaching development through AVCA in the mentorship program. I read a lot of books. I learn about great leaders and great coaches. I have a support staff that helps me. I have an AD that helps me kind of sift through things and learn. Like, you're never done learning. You're never done growing, but you're especially not when you're young. Like, you can't settle into something and say, this is it. This is what I'm doing forever. Like, no, you have to have options. You have to, read books and learn and grow. And then, in my opinion, as a coach, like, you got to hear out your athletes. You got to hear what they have to say and kind of form your program around things that they can do and that they want to. And so really, having them involved in that process, in my opinion, is big.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program at?
Yeah, absolutely. So our program has an Instagram page. It's our volleyball page. It's at coastal.georgiavolleyball. which is great. And we do a lot of fun stuff on there. My social media is private, but it's, if you have interest in following me, you can always DM me first, but that's at Val Every, Val_Every. But then especially follow our volleyball page, but also follow at CCGA Athletics. That's where you will find most of our stuff. Our awesome SIDJ does all that for us, and he has a great graphic designer, AB, and so they do an awesome job on there, and it's cool to see that grow.
Thank you again, Coach Valerie Everly, for your interview and best luck in your future at the College of Coastal Georgia as the head volleyball coach.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Valerie, for your interview and best luck in your future.
Thank you. You too.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.